you out and you said no. I thought.
Oh my God.
Oh, that was a long time ago.
Yeah,
So that was while you were in Chicago?
Yeah, that was probably what, like 8 years ago?
At least. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, we go to a Starbucks under the train right by Moody there.
Chicago and Franklin in downtown Chicago.
Yeah, it's kind of a nice Starbucks, and Brian orders a $14 cup of coffee, only to tell me how much he doesn't need me and doesn't want me around, and could I please get him something to go?
Well, in fairness, I'm not certain I knew why we were getting together, and Dave was buying, so...
Yeah. It's the first cup of Starbucks coffee I'd had in weeks.
And
probably.
so you said no, and then you had the nerve to invite him over like 3 years later?
No, I didn't say
And be like,
no.
"Can you
I'm
please
like, we
come on?"
already had multiple contributors on the show at the time, and Dave was getting me free coffee.
Now, knowing what you know now, okay, go back to former Brian in the Starbucks, all cocky and,
Is
sure
this
and
coffee
stuff.
paid for?
Would you take me now, knowing what you know?
Was the coffee still paid for?
Yes.
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 Wow, that's
Yeah, I
horrible.
Okay, there we go.
So you basically, you made a mistake. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So I rectified the situation a number of years later when we got to Cleveland. Before I went on the air, we got together with Dave to say,
Yeah.
Dave, we need you.
Yeah.
Dave, on the radio, live,
Aw.
answering questions. You haven't done that.
So Todd
Not with us, I
says
think.
Not with you guys.
Brian stands closer to the camera to do his best at having more of a physical presence than
You
Dave.
see how much bigger I am than Dave? Look at this. Like right now. I could squish him. Watch.
Mary, what's up? Mike, Joe, Todd, Miss Anita says great programming today as usual. I was in charge of all that. Yeah, so thank you, Miss Anita. Mike, good morning. So, wow, Dave says this week is special to him. Don't you feel important?
Yeah, we've been working together for 5 years.
It's been it has flown by. It's hard to believe it's been 5 years.
Should we do hazing for her then, since she's still so new?
Yes.
Well, I was
Look,
way
you don't
off
even
on
know how to
hazing.
way off. Tara, what's up? What's up, Tara? She's Team Janelle. She says, thanks to Janelle for keeping the men on track today. It was very difficult. I don't know if you can tell today. It was
very
hard.
difficult.
Theola, we love you.
I was complaining about something.
They always want to be in control.
It is good when we're in control.
This started in the Garden of Eden.
Just about to say, Eve started this. She's always got to be
so many years ago, and it's still going on.
complaining.
Okay, so we're
When are we
gonna.
going to eat this fruit? You know,
You
come
can
on.
still-
The rows aren't straight in the garden.
And
You
it
can
has
still-
too much sugar.
Oh,
You can still ask your financial questions, but I did promise that we're going to be sharing some secrets from the men in the room. So I'll have that and then ask you questions. So we'll start with Brian. Brian, do you have any secrets you want to share with us? Anything that you're like, wow, I overcame this struggle. What
Well,
is it? Go.
let me just tell you that because I'm a man and I believe in the Bible, I believe it's real important
Oh man.
to sacrifice
Oh my
women.
goodness.
and to honor women and love them.
Women? No,
So,
I said
I
men.
will gladly yield to Janelle because
I
ladies
said
first.
the men, and I said Dave in particular. So let's go to
Ladies-
Dave
ladies
because
first.
Dave is more courageous than
Ladies
Brian.
first.
Yes.
Go
No,
ahead.
I'll
See?
tell a secret.
Thank you.
I'll tell a secret.
Wow. Everybody beats you at courage.
I'll tell
Everybody.
Just wait. You're not going to really get a secret from this guy. So go ahead.
Seriously, come on.
This is probably something that people don't know about me.
Okay.
Brian, you know it about me. But I have a guilty pleasure. I love
Dancing.
Yes, I
Ballet.
love Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Yeah.
My favorite musical.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's cool.
a secret. Most
That's
people don't
it.
know that about me. I have it on my. Well, I used to have the CD. They don't make. Do they make CDs still? No.
I don't, well,
No.
I don't know.
They probably do.
Why nobody?
Whatever
I don't
happened to
even have a
record? Are
CD
there record
player.
stores?
I
I just noticed after like 3 years, I have a CD player in my car.
Wow.
Need it.
So, who are you closest to? Your mom or your dad?
I talk to my dad more because we work on projects together, and I need his. My dad owned a hardware store for a long time, a family hardware store, and so he could do anything. He could fix anything, and so he's really good at kind of guiding me through projects if I don't know how to do it. So I talk to him a lot.
So, were you a mama's boy at all?
Yeah.
You were?
Yes.
Are you the youngest?
No, I'm the second. I
So
have
what
two younger
happened
sisters.
there? Are you
By
the
the way,
favorite?
I'm everybody's favorite.
Okay.
Please, hello.
You were gonna say, by the way, what? Sorry.
My family just rented a cabin down in Chattanooga,
Oh.
and my younger sister, just younger than me. Oh no, my youngest sister. My nephew and I were throwing pillows at her. Okay, we're throwing pillows. We're having a pillow fight.
That sounds fun.
I broke her leg.
Oh,
In a pillow fight.
Wow.
She's like made of toothpicks or something.
And then I accused her of lying about it. And so she's like, I can't walk. I'm like, Mary, go get a box of Band-Aids like when you were a kid. Just put it on there. You'll be fine. I broke her fibula.
Okay, Mike has a question. Dave, as a consultant, I have high income seasons and low. It seems I either have cash and no job or a job and no cash, and that reflects on previous tax returns. During these unemployment times, yes, he is unemployed. Any advice on getting a prequel to buy a house? Do you know a lender who's able to think outside of the box with me? His credit is 800 plus.
Without a job, it's going to be really difficult to get a home loan right now. Because lenders don't have to go to you. Everybody wants a home loan right now. So what you have to do, what is, whenever you're self-employed, and I found this out very early on in my career, is you have to live in between the highs and the lows. And I knew people who lived on the high, okay, so they'd have a great month, they'd make a lot of money, the next thing you know, they're driving a car, you're like, wow.
Yeah.
And then they had to give the car back, or they had to give their suit back. One guy actually had, it was the ugliest suit too. It was like this, I'm like, is that a joke? Are you wearing a joke today? No, he had that tailored. And he couldn't pay for it. So these months and these months, you have to draw a line somewhere in the middle of there and be satisfied and live there. So I learned very early on that most people I say, you got to have 3 to 6 months of cash set aside. Not for me. I have to have more than that set aside because I have to live in between these margins. Now, I haven't had to do it for a long, long time, but I still live there. I still think that way because that's how I grew up in business, is you cannot live here and you can't live here. You can't have your family eating ramen noodles every day. So somewhere in the middle is where you got to be. So you got to be an expert budgeter. You got to be an expert planner. You got to be on the money all the time. And fortunately for me, my wife is really good with those details, the spending, the budgeting and everything. Extremely trustworthy, great with money, very frugal. So it
Is
really
she
helped me
here?
out. No, she's working. She is. She's just great with money. Great with money. So it really helped me out.
You're the finance guy.
I'm the finance guy, but I'm also the big thinker. I'm the one who does the investing, and she likes doing that stuff. She's very good at it. She pays attention to it.
So if you have more financial questions, send them in, or just questions for Brian. So for Brian or Dave. A question for both of you. So when you got to the point where you finally realized, like,
What's happening here?
That's messed up. I need to apologize to my parents. Like, what was it about? Like, what did you have to go back and
What's
be
going
like,
on
thank you for being...
Oh, I did it.
So what took you to that moment?
It took me...
That's 2-0.
It took one of my kids messing up and having it be really tough. And I was driving on Detroit Road in Avon, and my dad... We were going to Home Depot. And I looked at my dad, and I got all choked up, and I said, I just want to tell you I'm sorry. And he just kind of started laughing at me.
Wow.
But I really meant it. I finally understood what it was about. And, you know, when you're a kid, you think your dad's a moron, and he's just trying to hold me down. I want to do this so bad. And then you have your own kids, and your heart breaks for them at sometimes because of some of the dumb things they do.
My kid's got a lot of apologizing to do.
And they will. You just...
What
look,
about you? What kind of
I was
apologizing
a
did you do?
great kid.
Gosh, seriously?
I was not. I mean, I wasn't a bad kid. I went to, you know, I was
a good boy.
decent in school and everything. I played sports, but I was a kid. I did dumb
Yeah.
things. And I was a big mouth. I don't know if that surprises you or not.
No. Yeah, I'm very surprised right now.
And nobody tells me what to do. And that's an attitude that I had to really adjust because there are always people who are going to tell you what to do. And you have to do it.
I know, she does that to me all the time. She's telling me what to do all the time.
I like to, yeah, I'm the firstborn. I like to be in charge.
In charge.
Things run better when I'm in charge. The other question is, what's been your biggest lesson? You're all big and bad, the finance guy and everything, but you ain't perfect. So what's been your biggest money mistake? Something that's not personal, like something in general that you've been like, wow, I had to learn this.
That
Yeah.
Ponzi scheme thing? That was a
That's
mistake.
not funny. Okay, I don't know. That's not funny. Don't make
I know,
that joke.
that's not something I shouldn't say.
Don't make that
A
joke.
finance guy. There's
Was
no
that-
I won't even watch a movie about a Ponzi scheme in finance because I don't want to glorify
Yeah.
lying,
bad.
cheating, and stealing and deceit in my industry. So I think the biggest financial lesson is I bought a house, okay, and I had a house. And the banker said, oh, just do a bridge loan. Like, well, that sounds easy. So I did a bridge loan. And then my house didn't sell. And it didn't sell. And it didn't sell. And
What's
I'm
a bridge loan?
It's a loan based on the value of your house selling at some point in time so you could put a down payment on the next house. So you, in essence, own two houses. And for a while, the bridge loan, you don't have to come up with a payment on. It earns, they're charging you interest, but it's kind of like a HELOC where you don't actually have to pay anything but the interest.
Home equity line of credit.
Yeah, finance guy. Woo.
So then the payment started. And I'm like, I must sell this house. Plus I had to cut the grass and make sure nobody was breaking in, do all the stuff. And I think that pressure, that financial pressure of having that, I did not like. I do not like that.
Yeah.
I have enough pressure in my life. I don't need to be adding to it. And for my wife and I at the time, it was just not something that we probably should have done. And I think that was one of the biggest financial lessons I made.
Nancy, what's up? She says she's on her walk and that Thursdays with Dave are her highlight.
Oh, great.
Gary says, Brian's the baddest in the room, yet so meek and mild. And I'm sure you're thinking humble. Gary is the president of hashtag Team Brian. Him and David.
Meek and mild. Isn't that, there's like a hymn about me, kind of.
I think it's a cigar.
What's up, Anthony, on YouTube? Hey, YouTube people, you can ask your questions, financial or
How would
anything
I
else.
know, Dave?
So you made a mistake, or there's something you look back that you could have done better.
What are you doing here today?
I'm trying to have a
She's
conversation.
trying to build intimacy.
Exactly.
Why don't you start? That's what builds intimacy.
I
is
am
personal
not
What's the
dating.
biggest
transparency.
financial mistake that you've made,
No, I'm not. No.
I'm not saying that.
Wow.
No.
That's what I'm talking about.
The other,
Wow.
okay,
Wow.
so Dave made.
No, Janelle.
No.
Janelle, what is the
Dave
thing you've
made
had
a
to say sorry for to
mistake.
your parents, Janelle?
That's boring. Everybody wants to know about Dave.
No, I think we want to know about Janelle.
Okay.
I want to know about Janelle.
So I got two things. Number one, I'm still going to be feeling worse and worse about this because my daughter, Raina, likes a guy. Oh my gosh, she likes this kid. I'm just telling you, like, I'm getting to that season where I'm going to be like, Mommy, I'm really sorry. So Raina's starting to like guys, but she's 8, right? And so I've known about this, but she hasn't told me. And that little boy who grew up with the family visited yesterday for the first time because of COVID. And I hear one of the sister running up, Raina, so-and-so's here. And Raina gets all nervous. And then I called her and I was like, Raina, come here. You can tell me. And so we talked about it. So I'm getting into that season that's going to make my mistake feel bigger.
You were boy crazy.
No, I was not. I have a sister who was. I wasn't boy crazy, but I dated a drug dealer. And I didn't know.
Len was a drug dealer?
I didn't know.
She keeps saying she didn't know.
He would come to the house in a bike. I didn't know.
A drug dealer. Well, I mean,
I didn't
how
know.
long did you date him for?
I met him August, then came to Oberlin College. So he was in Rhode Island, so we weren't together a lot. And then we broke up like January.
Okay.
So it wasn't too
I mean,
bad.
there's worse mistakes that you could have
Thank
made.
you. That one was
Boy, you
bad.
don't have a job, but you have a lot of money.
And my to talk to me, and then she had my pastor talk to me.
So
and then,
everybody else but you knew this kid was a drug dealer.
yeah, Edwin knew. Oh, Mommy said, I don't remember this, but they took me out to a restaurant, and my dad and my brother were like, dude, like, yeah, they kept telling me.
Here's what I would have done as a brother. I would say, Janelle, this is what's going to happen. Your boyfriend, you're not going to see him anymore. What do you mean? No, literally, physically, you can't see him anymore.
Oh, man.
Because he's in the ditch over there, bleeding.
I know.
We're calling an ambulance, and he's probably, most likely, well, he might make it.
Yeah, yeah.
But we're
really.
not totally sure right now, but if you see him again, you're putting his life in danger. I just want you to know.
Okay, number 2. Go ahead.
No,
Number 2.
I have another question for you.
No, whoa. You said 2. You
I
can't do
wanna
that to
learn
people.
about-
You said 1, and you said you had 2, and you said the first one's a drug dealer. Go ahead. What's number 2?
Oh, this one's is not even that intense. I used to catch attitudes with my mom. I was a good kid, but the worst thing I would do is she would tell me to go do something, and I'd be like, I would do that. And it was little, but now that I'm a mom, it's that thing.
I'm sure there's worse things.
No,
There's
I didn't
gotta
do
be
it. I
worse
gave
things.
you a bad one. That was bad. I mean, I was.
No, but it wasn't bad because I didn't know.
I didn't know.
He was so nice.
I didn't know.
I didn't know all those gold chains meant something.
I didn't know. I had
With
no
the
clue.
dollar sign.
You know, no. You know one thing I should have known. This is gonna be bad. You want me to share it? I had no clue. Is this bad?
No,
Oh my
please
gosh.
go ahead.
So like, I didn't know the smell of weed. I have
His
no
name was
clue.
Kid Smoke, but it never caught on.
And
Never-
so now that I'm an
They called
adult,
him Doobie.
I'm like, duh. Like I should have known based on the smell that sometimes he would have, but I didn't know. That's
What's your
not
favorite
bad.
band? Doobie Brothers.
And so I feel bad for my mom because it's that season that you probably feel like, oh my gosh, all my work on this girl is down the drain.
Yeah.
No, you were
Did I share more than
trouble.
you guys were ready
Trouble.
for? Okay, so my next question for you: you've made mistakes, so you're more real to us as a finance guy. Do you have somebody that you actually call and ask for advice on finance?
Well,
Probably his colleagues he consults.
there. If I'm doing something very complicated, and there are things that we do that are just financially, tax-wise, structurally very complicated, I will get a second opinion and just say, will you look at this and tell me I'm not stupid?
Oh, okay.
Just to say, oh yeah, it's fine. Because the worst thing that you could do is put somebody in a worse financial position because you thought you were right.
Yeah.
And so there are some things where they're just complicated, and it's good to have a second set of eyes on it. Early on in my career, the best advice I got was from a guy from our church. He's a great guy. He's been a believer, 500 years it seems like. And, in my business, when I first started, the mistake that I really made is I cared way too much about money. I cared way too much about things. And it was something that I had to deal with because everybody that I worked with had things and money and boats and jet skis and cars and all and nice houses. And so I thought early on that's what I was supposed to do. So that was the end that I was working towards. And this guy pulls me aside one day. He says, Dave, every time you buy something, it takes a little piece of you, and you're never getting it back. It's going to take time. It's going to take effort. It's going to take money. It's going to take relationship, and you're never getting it back. And it was then that I started to see that
that's deep.
my priorities were off.
That reminds me of a book, and it's a guy, Walden. Is it the book Walden?
Walden Pond,
Yeah, like when he went out for like 2 years.
Ralph Waldo Emerson.
There
It
you
wasn't
go.
that the concept
that's right.
of like there was
Minimalists.
yeah, and not the extreme part, but it was
Yeah.
what he was saying. Like we live with a lot of things that we
A lot of
don't
Polish,
need.
by the way.
I read that book, and I got to say, The Bean Fields, it was the worst thing in the world to read. And I actually
Seriously?
went and visited his
But
cabin.
did you like the idea?
Well, I think
That's extreme.
Not the extreme part, but he had a point. I mean, what you just said.
I would rather talk about the Apostle
Oh yeah,
Paul.
it's Henry David Thoreau.
Yeah, Henry
Yes,
it was.
yes, him.
Some guy with 3 names.
The Apostle Paul talked about the being content in all circumstances.
Oh,
And I think that's where I have to be. I have to be content
Yeah.
with whatever I have and know that God has me here because he wants me here. I don't know why. I'm always trying to figure out what is God's will for my life, and that's my prayer. But we have to learn to be content.
Yeah.
There is always more, but you're never going to be the richest person in the room. There's always going to be somebody that has more.
Unless
And
you're Jeff Bezos, and then really.
He has a lot of money.
What do you do if you're him? Oh my gosh! But
You
I
buy a
was-
newspaper
I was gonna say.
and try and affect an election.
My son is starting to realize that now that he works and it's not for himself. He used to do landscaping. He got his sister a gift, and it's really nice. And then I was like, wow, that's like a lot more than I expected. He's like, yeah, I thought 2-3 hours of my life, she's worth it. I'm like, dude, when you start learning, like, yo, time is isn't that deep?
Did
Like
you say
he's
to
starting
him,
to
"Ben,
connect.
I hope you're going to spend a lot more than that on your mother.
No, but I like
Go
that.
get me some Chipotle.
The
How did she say it?
learning, because they're like,
I don't know how she says it.
they'll just ask you to do stuff and not realize, dude, like, That's money. He's
Yeah.
starting to connect the meaning.
I like watching my kids spend more on their friends than their parents for presents. and
Or
pointing
your
it out.
girlfriend, your
Oh,
daughter.
Your little boyfriend. He
Yeah,
needs
yeah,
an
exactly.
$80 this. And what'd you get me for Father's Day? Exactly.
Okay, financial question
Well,
by
hold on,
Doctor. We got he's Doctor.
Janelle, what's your biggest regret?
In your life, your biggest regret in your life so far?
I don't have one. It's so weird.
You don't have any regrets.
Wow.
That's a personal question.
And
I'll
the
tell
humility
you.
award goes to.
Janelle,
Okay, I promise. I'll tell you after you tell me yours.
If there was one thing
gotta
in
get
your
to this
life that
question.
you could
Oh wow! He hasn't. I've shared. You shared.
We're almost out of time. Janelle.
What? Wow, Dr. John Meisenheimer.
It's John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt.
Why do you do all that? Oh.
because it kind of flows.
Question about Roth contributions. 2020 tax year is the first tax year my wife and I will make more than the max income to contribute to a Roth IRA. We want to do a backdoor Roth in the future, but I'm confused whether we need to file 2020 taxes first to document the income. Can we contribute to our Roth directly until we file 2020 taxes and then do the backdoor Roth for the 2021 tax year? First of all, what's the backdoor Roth?
So the backdoor Roth is you've made too much money to be able to contribute to a Roth. And if you make too much money, you just can't put money in there. You just can't do it. And so what people do is they put in a non-deductible contribution to a regular IRA, which you can always contribute to a regular IRA, even if you make Jeff Bezos money, you just can't deduct it. And then what you do is you wait one tax year and you convert it to a Roth, okay? Because you have already paid taxes on it, conceivably there's no tax due when you convert it, and so you're kind of going in the back door. And what you want to do is the IRS has this rule called the step transaction where you can't do something just to avoid a tax to do something else. So they look at those steps. So if you invested in a regular IRA and then 2 days later converted it to a Roth, they're going to say, that's kind of a step transaction. They might disallow it. So I would wait some time, maybe a tax year. So if you're going to do it, now would be a great time because you're almost in the next tax year. So January 2nd, 3rd, you could convert. It'll be in a new tax year.
So what's too much to contribute to a Roth?
I think, you know what, I don't know the number off the top of my head. I should because I have to take a test on this in the not too distant future. It's like $64,000 to $75,000. If you make more than that, you can't contribute to a Roth. And then that's for an individual, and then it's higher for a married couple.
By the way, John Jacob Jingleheimer Schmidt has confessed that he only has a master's degree, so he's not a doctor. He does teach in college, though. He said, sorry to disappoint Janelle.
You are Doctor in the Brian Janelle Morning Show. Hello.
We're passing out honorary doctorates now?
To him, we are.
Why don't I
He's
get one?
still waiting on his. He doesn't
I
get
think
one
that's
yet.
obvious.
So before we leave, can we please have a confession
actually
from
on
that
time.
side of the table? Brian,
Don't do
that
it, Brian.
is
Don't do it.
Brian. Diantre, Brian.
One of my favorite things to do is get her so mad at me she speaks Spanish, just like that. Did you hear that?
I confess. I
vamos.
love you guys.
Ven,
Okay.
confésate. Una confesión.
When I was a kid, I really was.
No, can we be serious?
I was too good.
See, I knew that. I knew that. It was too good to be true. Guys, ask for it. Come on, ask
It's
for
like
it.
the job interview. What's your weakness?
I try
I
too
think my
hard.
biggest weakness is I just love my job so much I never want to leave.
Yeah.
Brian, let's go.
We
You gotta
did one
give
segment
one.
on
We're
the
waiting,
air.
Brian.
You got to do
We
one.
we did a segment on the air where I managed to not, like, I weaseled
Yeah.
my way out
Yes.
for 30 minutes with some
Weasel.
radio,
Yeah.
with like a radio
Weasel being the,
ninja.
opportune word there.
Brian, come on. You got to do one because we
One what?
One confession. Something your
About-
biggest. Okay, so what one thing did you have to look back as an adult and apologize to your parents about something you did as a child?
I don't think I've ever apologized to my parents.
So that's
You've
that's a
never
whole other
apologized?
segment.
Well, no,
there
I
were
think-
things to apologize.
You should
for.
apologize for never
No,
apologizing.
Oh,
Why haven't
you
you
hear that?
apologized to your parents?
We gotta stop.
Why haven't you apologized?
No, I probably did. Probably about, I don't know, talking too much or something. Probably.
Oh my goodness! Wow. Okay.
Loser.
Oh my God. Okay, so then if we're not gonna go with your parents, tell us what have you apologized to Sarah about? What's the last thing?
Oh my God. Do we have that kind of time? Let's just name them. Insensitive.
She's joking.
Uncaring. Forgetful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Self-centered.
The deepest apology.
The
you've given.
beard.
What was it about?
The deepest apology. What was it
Like
about?
the most serious.
You keep changing the question.
No, because I know
consistently
you're gonna
apologize.
find a way to dance around it. Give us some deep. Come on, go ahead. I'm trusting you. Go.
I occasionally have to apologize to her sincerely for loving her too much.
That's messed up. I gave you some serious secret. Wow, that's messed
You
up.
keep thinking I'm gonna do it. That's the best part. No, see now it'll ruin it if I say anything
You-
sincere.
do it, Brian.
Okay,
Don't
fine.
do it.
If we're not going to leave with that, we'll leave with this. He said this morning, true ministry is being transparent. That's what he said this morning.